No, I definitely agree. There's been moments in actually we were what was it? I think we performed for our first KRS-One show, and this guy came up after us after the whole performance, and he was like, "I really like that song, but you should definitely think about changing that whole beat. I think it's trash." and and I love it. I was like, you know what? I think you're right because it's just an approach I didn't even think about until you said it. I thought there was something missing from it, but at the time we didn't like have a real like a network of musicians that we can collaborate with and compensate or just like
Yeah.
um, make some jams with. So we're just working with beats from the internet, and it really helps when people are like, you know what, dude, you should switch up, maybe even change, maybe even throw that song away. um, it's interesting. It's good to think about, good to let your ego die for a minute
Yeah,
and step aside yourself.
I think it's really, really important as an artist to come to terms with that and to realize that like everything that you try to put out there artistically isn't gonna work. You know
Mm.
what I mean? That's why all of the great artists have like albums and albums of B-sides that we've never heard that get earthed, decades later because people were just trying to milk that money from the biz. But there's reasons why these songs weren't on albums. There's reasons why we never heard
Mhm.
these songs. A lot of the times
Yeah.
I feel bad listening to like, artists that have passed away and they're like unreleased shit. It's like, did anybody want us to hear this? Like, did they really,
Yeah.
I don't know if like I want to hear like Prince's bad ideas. You know what I mean? Like I think I'd rather just hear the dope ones, because everybody has bad ideas. But I think when you're starting out as an artist and like you just want to get material released and like you just want to play shows, like you're not thinking so much about like, oh, is this a good song or a bad song? You're just like, this is a song. And now we have enough songs for a set so we can get on a stage. And it really
Yeah.
takes some time to like get to a point where it's like now you have too many songs and you can actually start cutting stuff. But then you're like,
Yeah.
well, we want to make an album. And, you know, albums nowadays are kind of weird. That's a whole nother conversation. Like some people will put out 5 songs and say it's an album, or you'll
Mhm.
have like a Drake that puts out a double album, but it's released digitally. So it makes no sense that it's a double album because it's
Yeah.
digital. I don't know, but it's like 40 fucking songs or whatever. It's like, Jesus Christ. That's like, I don't think I want to hear more than 5, but I don't want to listen to 400. So it's like this
Yeah.
weird in between, right?
I think that's where there's a lot of stuff in there I wanted to
I
talk
know.
about.
Sorry. Sorry.
No, I think that's why like a single approach kind of works, or like a grouping of EPs. Like I liked when Green Day did one or Uno Dos Tres,
Yeah.
and so it was like a triple album.
Uh huh.
But they released it at different times, so you can unpack it.
Yeah. I think that there's no right or wrong way to release music. If it's good, it's going to be good. Like there's
Yeah,
bands that I follow online that are pretty much single bands. Like they put a single out every month, every couple months, whatever. And I fuck with those bands. And then there's people that I know that might only put out an album like every 2 or 3 years, and I fuck with that too. If it's good, it's good.
yeah,
It does bum me out sometimes, like if I come across a song that I really like and then I go on like I look them up and it's like shit, that's the only thing that they've released, and now you're kind of like jonesing, like waiting for the next thing. But that's cool though. You always want to leave them wanting more, right?
yeah. Of course, but that's cool. You found the bottom floor. You came in at the right time.
Uh huh. Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
good to
And
find those artists.
yeah,
I like that for when I find producers, online. You're just like, oh, they only got 600 views on this video. I'm gonna check this one out.
uh huh.
And it follows through that. They're like only 1,000 views. You're like, yes, nobody's listened to these really. It's
Hmm.
like a lost gem.
Yeah, it's so it's. I don't think that. I mean, and it's getting worse, but like how saturated everything is right now
Yeah.
is insane to me. When I was starting out making beats and things like that, like I didn't fucking know anybody else that made beats. I knew a couple people that rapped. Um, And then now it's just unbelievable, like how many people do this shit. But I mean, for the most part, a lot of it is people that do this shit. If we're being honest, they're not really like in it, but they all have social media accounts and shit that's hogging up the bandwidth and making it harder just to get your shit out there. You know what I mean? Like all the fucking time I hear this, and maybe you've heard this too with stuff where like people will be like, yo, that's really good. Why doesn't it have more views or whatever?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's like, cause like one, for me, I feel like, okay, like if I have a view, like a video on YouTube and it has like, a few hundred hits, to me, I'm still in this place where I think it's crazy that a few hundred people want to pay attention to anything that I'm doing. But like in the grand scheme of things, I still know that like that ain't shit, because like there's people that could put out videos and they have tens of thousands of views in like a minute. Like, you know what I mean? Like all like if you were to add up the total of everything I've ever released, there's somebody else that could put out something in 5 minutes. They beat that. It's crazy. But also it's like, how much of that is real? Like the numbers thing kind of fucks with me, because a lot of it isn't very complicated to fabricate. I feel like anybody with an air quote marketing budget can all of a sudden have 25K views on their YouTube video if they, throw the right amount of money at the right person.
Yeah, man.
And it makes it really hard to like believe things. And I hate that like when people are looking at my video, like even if it's a friend of mine, that part of them is like, oh, this only has a few hundred views. What's up with that? Instead of like just thinking about like the quality of the content. It's like the number has nothing to do with the content itself, but it like is like this assumed worth.
Mm-hmm.
It's like almost like looking at like the stock market. It's like our stock value is based on YouTube views, and it's like heartbreaking.
Well, it is though, because like that you can monetize off of it. That's why it is that way, and it's beneficial to those that are at that place, and you can also be at that place, but it's really it's really hard to navigate, especially with, like you said, the amount that you can just all of a sudden buy 100K followers, for an Instagram, and now you can start like just trying to get through, and all of a sudden you see a video that's 100K views, and you're like, oh, maybe I'll stop and see this because people are also doing that. So the psychology there is kind of detrimental. It's what the Social Dilemma was kind of pointing out on Netflix, that documentary, it messes with your psyche, and there's gonna be repercussions down the line from all of the dopamine influxes, and then the lack of it from the downs, the comments, and then the lack of numbers and stuff like that. Like, oh, I'm not good enough, So there's a good psychological study that we can do on that, which I hope somebody's doing to determine like what the boundaries should be and shouldn't be,
You're